Dallas has a lot of people that have really big visions.
It was the foundation that stepped up and said, we've got to be a provider, a catalyst.
We're going to build a medical school. We're going to build a great medical school.
We've got just the brightest people.
This is a real shining star. 6 Nobel laureates, my gosh almighty, nobody's got that.
It was a grand vision from the beginning. 75 years ago, leaders of conviction and courage set a new course for Dallas and medical science.
The Southwestern Medical Foundation is in large part responsible for the enormous success of Dallas as a medical center.
Without the generosity of the people of this community, UT Southwestern would not be one of the top-rated medical schools in America, period.
You can't be a world-class city, such as Dallas is today, without a teaching hospital and a medical center of the quality that we have.
Curiosity. What would the medical school be without curious people?
Research drives the evolution and development of healthcare and medicine. If you don't have research, then people are not going to have their cell phones and their iPads. If one doesn't have research, one will not have new drugs, new vaccines, and we'll have diseases that will end up destroying our health. You've got to have research.
We've got a lot of smart scientific research going on here in this city because of the Southwestern Medical Foundation. We attract doctors that know that this foundation will support their research in really breakthrough avenues. And that's what happens and takes a city from one level to the next.
As we know, medical scientific research begins with the individuals that are trained and dedicated to doing that research and have the kind of resources available to them to carry out that research. That's what's been so vital about the Southwestern Medical Foundation.
I felt very strongly that people in academic clinical departments should, among other things, have a research program of presumably high dignity.
Sometimes I'm in the position of just dreaming about doing excellent research. Because of the Southwestern Medical Foundation, it's been possible to actually achieve what I want to.
You have to give them the opportunity to make their discoveries. You have to make it possible so that they know that they won't be limited, that they're only limited by their imagination and their skill.
Dallas, or in the early days, was basically a medical wilderness, not having libraries or laboratories or a pathologist in the city. And when he came to Dallas to start his practice in 1902, there was none of that here.
Ophthalmologist Edward Carey was also horrified by the hodgepodge of unregulated medical schools. As dean of the 2-year-old University of Dallas Medical Department, there was no University of Dallas. He raised standards and in 1903 awarded only 4 diplomas. Carey engineered the school's affiliation with Baylor University and led the new Baylor College of Medicine. After serving as its dean, as a private physician, Carey built a tower to medicine, the Medical Arts Building. In its 18 stories, physicians and dentists of different specialties could collaborate and practice in the same place. But Carey had a more ambitious plan: to make Dallas one of the greatest medical centers in the country. What held medical schools back was a lack of funding. Carey approached Carl Hoblitzell, president of the Interstate Theater chain, which included the Majestic in Dallas.
Ed Carey and Carl Hoplitzel were really visionaries because they realized some 75 years ago that if Dallas were to be a great city, it had to have a great medical center.
Dr. Carey had been president of the American Medical Association, and in his travels had seen that the medical care or health care in other communities was better than what we had in Dallas. So he convinced Mr. Hoplitzel to bring together the business and civic leaders in order to create a better medical atmosphere.
They obtained the charter January 21st, 1939, establishing Southwestern Medical Foundation.
Well, he knew that it was going to take a heck of a lot of money to do this the right way. The foundation itself it grew and grew and grew, along with in the early days with just friends, and everybody got behind it, and because everybody knew that we needed a medical facility and a medical school for the Southwest because it was so antiquated. And so he and Baylor parted ways. They moved to Houston, and he started Southwestern Medical College. And here we are today.
In 1943, the U.S. was at war. The military needed physicians. So Carey approached the Army with an offer to educate doctors for military and civilian life. In exchange, the Army obtained materials in short supply and built a plywood city. So the brand new Southwestern Medical College started strategically located next to the teaching hospital Parkland. In 1949, the foundation signed over Southwestern to the University of Texas system, and with the community, continued to support the school.
When I came here, I looked for the medical school, and I inquired at a service station as to where the medical school was located. The attendant gestured in the direction of a railroad overpass, and I drove there and found only abandoned shacks, garbage, and a broken-down building. I returned to the service station and told the attendant that I had followed his instructions and indicated what I'd seen. And I said, I didn't see any medical school, and he said, that was it. More or less, for a short time, I was the only full-time member of the Department of Medicine. It was lonesome, in a certain sense. There was nobody else in the department except myself, and there were very meager resources available to recruit anybody. But the one resource we had were the students, and it seemed to me that we might have an exciting experience if I could recruit the students to enter an academic career, send them away for training, and bring them back. And this proved to be a very successful program.
There were a few key people like Don Selden who said this institution is going to stand for excellence. It will grow for sure. It will do all the things it has to do, but as it does it, it will stand for quality foremost. That was part of the founding culture of the institution, and it persisted right the way through the decades.
And the shacks serve their purpose. After the school spent 15 years in wooden buildings, the community came together to build a new campus next to the county's new Parkland Hospital. 1963 put a worldwide spotlight on Parkland, where the medical school doctors worked to save the life of the president. Against long odds, Governor John Connally recovered from his life-threatening wounds under the care of medical school doctors, and later paid tribute to them at the foundation's dinner. As a result of the terrible events of 1963, the surgery and anesthesiology staffs at Parkland and UT Southwestern published the first medical text on trauma care. The Foundation's commitment to health care for the whole city led to the construction of a new St. Paul Hospital next to the medical school. Across town, the Foundation led and supported the creation of a new hospital, Presbyterian.
It was not a creation of the city, but of the citizens of Dallas, seeing a need for their community. And they saw that to be a great city, Dallas would need a medical center to train its physicians, and also to be a source of improvements in healthcare through research. And so as we look around the country and see other great medical centers, yes, over time they have attracted the interest and support of their communities. But in Dallas, that's where UT Southwestern Medical School started.
Science is the answer. And I truly believe that through science we can answer any number of things around the world that individuals and that communities experience. If we can get science working hard enough, I think it can figure it out.
The most important part of science is asking the right question. And so a scientist looks for an important question where there's a lot at stake for humans, but that also strikes a passion for them.
The long vision of Southwestern Medical Foundation has been to combine research with clinical care and education. The search for answers took an interesting turn in the early 1990s.
The Gulf War syndrome, Dr. Bob Haley. Ross Perot brought to me the problem that our Gulf War veterans were having.
About a quarter of the troops, over 200,000 of them, developed an illness, and when they began coming home, it became a really incapacitating illness for many of them.
They had symptoms that sort of related to Lou Gehrig's disease, and there was no reason for it.
We then tried to get a grant from the government, and they turned us down because they didn't want us meddling.
So Dr. Bob Haley started doing research, which was funded by Ross Perot in the beginning. I did get money through earmarks to help fund the research, to go along with what Ross Perot had already put in.
And so she was very powerful and was able to get a funding stream for us so that we could then bring in some national experts, develop a real research environment here to study this problem specifically. We developed a new set of brain imaging tests, and we then collected the world's greatest data set on an emerging new illness, analyzed it, and now published papers that definitively show this is a problem involving effects on the brain of low-level chemical nerve agent that so far has been permanent. And so now we're working on some new ideas to see if we can find a way of ameliorating the symptoms.
In 1989, investigators did a door-to-door AIDS survey in Dallas, the first in a major city. In 2000, researchers did another citywide survey, the Dallas Heart Study, a broad, multi-ethnic investigation of the risk factors for heart disease.
Every person came in and we did extensive, what we would call phenotyping, that is characterization of the person. The biggest story that we've told in the Dallas Heart Study is a protein that's called PCSK9. 2% of African Americans have the sequence variation, and that's associated with a 40% reduction in LDL cholesterol levels. And then we went on to show that that reduction basically protects you from heart disease almost completely.
Not all progress is in laboratories, but at the bedside.
Dr. Wildenthal explained to me in very simple terms that medical schools do three things. Number one is they teach students, and number two, they do research. And he said that those two legs of their three-legged stool were extraordinary. But they felt as though their clinical activities, which is the third leg of the stool, in 1980s was not up to the same standards as the other two legs.
So the Zale and Lipsche families were enlisted to help build Southwestern's first referral hospital. Now, with the Foundation's support, the new Clements Hospital has opened where compassionate care, research, and education come together.
There is an increased emphasis on developing new technology, centering the care around the patient. And I think the Clements Hospital is a typical example where the design of the hospital, the way that the teams function, are all, as they say, patient-centric. The Foundation also has an opportunity here to help grow those programs through its enduring history of raising awareness in the community, attracting individuals and corporations and organizations who have an interest in building it and making UT Southwestern basically an international destination for sort of the best quality health care.
My mom had this horrible disease that lasted for a really long time, and we used to joke that she had a doctor for every single part of her body except for maybe her hair and her fingernails, and she was treated, head to toe at UT Southwestern. And she had incredible care. I mean, the doctors, the nurses, the facility, it prolonged her life. We thought that the care that she received was phenomenal.
If there's any lesson we've learned over the last 50 years, it's that there is no question that science cannot answer if given the funding and the talent and the equipment and so forth that's needed. Scientific research is extremely powerful, and it can answer any question.
There must be a reason UT Southwestern has 6 Nobel laureates and many members of prestigious national academies. It is not chance. The school identifies and nurtures talent early. The foundation helps in funding and retaining.
Joe Goldstein was a medical student here, and an outstanding one at that.
I did win an award. It's a Hoden Award, which is given to outstanding medical student, and by the Southwest Medical Foundation. In fact, that was probably the first time I ever heard of the Southwest Medical Foundation, because a student wouldn't know anything about. That would not be what you would. That wouldn't be high on your radar as a medical student.
The plan was for Joe Goldstein to take his house staff training at the Massachusetts General Hospital. Then he left for the National Institutes of Health, and finally he received his genetics training at the University of Washington. By this time he had become rather well known, having written several papers on cholesterol and heart disease, and was offered a number of impressive positions. But he was very loyal and returned to the medical school and developed the program here.
When you're a young person, to get an offer before that is made 6 years before you'll ever come back. I was away for 6 years, so I was just, sort of on track to come back. And then it was at the Massachusetts General Hospital that Mike Brown and I met for the first time. This was in 1966, and we were interns together.
Joe introduced me to Dr. Selden while we were residents. And once I met Dr. Selden, I was mesmerized. I had never met a man with such urbane wisdom and such a broad knowledge, not only of medicine, but of art and literature and music.
Every institution needs a patron saint of taste, style, and intellect who attracts gifted talent, like Albert Einstein did at the Institute for Advanced Studies in Princeton, New Jersey. And in many ways, Selden is Southwestern's Albert Einstein. He's a man with spiritual grandeur who has shaped not only our brains, but also our souls.
I had never seen this union of medicine and science the way Dr. Selden was building here. So once I met him, then I came and visited, and I was sold immediately. The Dallas philanthropic community has been a tremendous asset, a priceless asset, an irreplaceable asset to the medical school. It goes way back to the recruitment of Dr. Selden initially, and then Charles Sprague, when he was president, was able to marshal funds from the local community, mostly funneled through the foundation, to support science here.
Well, the Southwestern Medical Foundation at that time was a rather small institution, but it was invaluable in the sense that it could provide resources for recruitment, for supplementation of various things that were outside the domain of the university budget, which was a very small one.
Well, in 1977, we had a very lucrative offer from the University of California at San Francisco. A major donor had died and left his entire estate to fund a new research institute which would have its own building and its own budget, and we would be free of having to even apply for federal grants. And we made several visits out there, and it was very attractive. And our president at the time, Dr. Sprague, found out about this, and he called Eric Johnson, the former mayor of Dallas. Eric was one of the three founders of Texas Instruments, a brilliant man and a great leader. And we went down to visit Eric in his office, which was atop the Republic Bank building, which is, if you were around Dallas in the 70s, you know, that's as close to heaven as you can possibly get. And he told us he knew about the offer, and he said, first of all, you don't want to live in California. It's a terrible place. It's full of drugs and hippies, and you certainly don't want to raise any children there. But he said, and I understand there was $25 million behind this offer, and he said, I don't have that kind of money, which was frankly not true, but he said, here's what I'll do instead. And he wrote his telephone number on a piece of paper, and he said, if you ever need anything, if you ever need money for a new piece of equipment or a salary for somebody or for any purpose whatsoever, you just call this number. It's my home telephone number, and a check will be there on your desk at 9 o'clock the next morning. And we left his office just feeling flying on cloud nine, because we knew that Eric represented the leadership of Dallas, and the leadership of Dallas was behind us, and to have that kind of support from the local community was an enormous thrill. And it gave us enormous confidence, and it allowed us to do experiments that were very, very risky and difficult, but we knew that we had the backing of the leaders of Dallas.
8 years later, Brown and Goldstein won the Nobel Prize, the first for work done in Texas.
Part of the modern medicine has to do with recruiting talent. And Southwestern Medical understands that and has been of invaluable help in recruiting the talent that it needs to compete and win major contracts for research and major awards. And as a result, we now have more Nobel laureates than any other medical school in the country. And those guys are magnets for attracting other talent and money for the research.
Mike and Joe were both an inspiration to me, and so were a lot of the people at Southwestern, and they were a challenge to me. They had tremendously high standards, and that made me work a lot harder than I probably would have otherwise. I've been at UT Southwestern for a total of about 17 years, and there were 11 years when I wasn't here. So we're talking about a span of something like 28 years that I've seen this institution develop. It's always had extremely high standards internally. It's been motivated to do excellent research, and it's had tremendous community support. And you put those two things together, and then we're unstoppable.
In many places, there was a deep pessimism because there was an economic downturn and the funding was not good, and not here. Here, everybody was optimistic, and that says something about the spirit, the climate, the atmosphere.
People tend to stay at UT Southwestern. They don't leave. It's not that easy to attract them elsewhere. If they do well, we will keep them. We will not allow them to get out of town.
That support has made it possible for our faculty to take chances in the research they do, to pursue a line of research which may be challenging and require a persistence beyond what other sources of funding for research would tolerate. That commitment from our community and the generosity and philanthropy coming from the Southwestern Medical Foundation is really the secret sauce.
Southwestern Medical Foundation has looked to the future in many ways. From the beginning, it has saluted young physician scientists of tomorrow. The newest recipient of the Foundation's Hodin Award is Drew Avery, who takes the noble values of the founders to the world.
One remarkable element of receiving the Hodin Award this year was that it was presented to me by Mr. Edward Carey III, the grandson of Dr. Edward Carey, the original founder of the Southwestern Medical Foundation and Southwestern Medical College. To see that the values exemplified by Dr. Carey have been carried on through the generations of his family, and that the Carey family continues to support the efforts towards education, research, and clinical care here at Southwestern is truly inspiring.
I can't imagine a more giving, more altruistic place to be than in Dallas, Texas. The medical community, and specifically UT Southwestern, is caught up in this spirit. It's a contributor to this spirit. And I think people want the city to work for people.
I'm very proud of what has happened in the last 75 years. But I think as I look throughout the 21st century, we've got so much more running room here. We can accomplish so many more things with a larger corpus and a larger asset base. I know we can do it. This city is capable of it. And if you're a giver that is saying, I want to give to great scientific research, Southwestern Medical Foundation is the place for you.
If a donor wants to make a large gift to the medical school, it goes into the foundation, and the foundation makes certain that
wherever the money gets used, it's researched and they fund it in the right way.
A lot of people have problems giving money to a governmental agency. And with Southwestern Medical Foundation, we know where the money is going to be.
Without Southwestern Medical Foundation, I seriously doubt that we would know the city of Dallas today. Why do I say that? Because Southwestern Medical Foundation has been the vehicle that allowed businesses and individuals to make substantial contributions to build a medical school in Dallas.
It's essential that we all dedicate and rededicate our efforts on building the medical school and maintaining its world-class status. And that takes communicating with the next generation of business leaders, the next generation of donors.
There is nothing in Dallas or Texas today which is more deserving of the support of Dallas people than UT Southwestern and by extension the Southwestern Medical Foundation.
Why is the medical school important? Can you imagine Dallas without that medical school? At my age, well over 100, I have been a customer of the medical school for many years. It is a mecca for many, many people from Dallas, from Texas, and from all over the world.
Some of the highest quality research in the world is taking place here, and it can't all be funded by state and federal resources. It needs us. We're the leaders of the future.
The foundation plays a vital role. We fund a lot of this research, we fund a lot of these investigators, and we help fund basic research that's leading to discoveries that are absolutely going to change the quality of life for people in Dallas and in the entire world.
Southwestern Medical Foundation is a testament to what a clear vision and dedicated citizenry can really accomplish. It is a story of innovation, of brilliance that was nurtured on our frontier.
The emergence of an infant Southwestern Medical College during wartime into one of the nation's leading biomedical centers today is a testament to the vision of the founders and the commitment of those who followed. I'm proud beyond measure in what we've accomplished together in this great endeavor.
The nobility of Dallas philanthropy has amazed me all of my life. In just 75 years, the early vision and hard work has indeed created a shining medical city. Generosity and conviction to a noble cause have driven its success. I am honored to have borne witness to this great story and contributed in some small way.
In the last 30 years, 6 of us have been privileged to win the Nobel Prize.
the most of any medical school in the world. Harvard Medical School has 2 Nobel Prizes. Johns Hopkins has 4. My alma mater, the University of Pennsylvania Medical School, is celebrating its 250th anniversary this year. They have never had a single Nobel Prize. We have 6 in 30 years.
With the dream of a healthier world becoming a reality, the future is as clear as it's always been and was in our original vision. Assuring the highest standards, requiring wisdom be combined with compassion, attracting the world's greatest minds, and leading with the inspired support of an incredible community.
To Dr. Podolsky, President of the University of Texas, Southwestern Medical Center, the gift of $7.5 million.
On behalf of the citizens of Dallas, I am here to say thank you, to say muchas gracias. Thank you for this marvelous gift. I would also like to say thank you to the students, especially those students who will represent 75, the 75th graduating class. They are here tonight to say thank you for your part in making their dreams and attending this world-class medical school come true. Ladies and gentlemen, the 75th anniversary class of 2018. Thank you all. Great night.